Good morning. Today is Thursday, January 11th, 2024. A few days ago, Daniel Gordis interviewed Yaakov Katz. Yaakov Katz is the former chief editor of the Jerusalem Post. He is a current writer for the Jerusalem Post. He is a widely respected expert on the Israeli military and on Israeli society. And Katz said in that interview, the biggest challenge that we have, in my view, is not Hezbollah and it's not Hamas. So, first of all, Hamas is a pretty big challenge. And if you're following the news, Hezbollah is potentially much more dangerous, God forbid, than Hamas. The number of missiles they have, the accuracy of them, the number of fighters they have. Chas v'shalom, if things get involved in the north, it's much more dangerous than what we're facing from Hamas. Okay, so, but Katz, coming back to Katz, these are not the biggest challenges. The biggest challenge we have is how do we not slide back to the pre-October 7th period where we're each other's neck, where we were fighting with each other, where we were arguing with each other, where we were literally almost, God forbid, destroying Israeli society. Like many of you, I too worry terribly about the divisiveness between Israelis and Jews worldwide. And especially as the current achdus, the sense of unity, which is there, which is strong, which is amazing, but it is already starting to fray. I've held back from discussing today's topic on purpose, but what I want to share with you today is very, very important. I believe it very strongly. And I think now is the time that we need to discuss it. And also, I have a new wrinkle in this subject that I want to share with you. We've discussed before that among religious Jews, especially in Israel, there is a deep divide between those who serve in the IDF and those who pursue exemptions based on studying Torah full-time with the understanding that Torah study also helps to protect the Jewish people from any foe. In fact, maybe the main protection that we have from any foe. And so these Jews would argue that they are engaged in the protection of Israel through Torah study. Now, all religious Jews agree that Torah study is vital for every Jew, and that Torah and prayer are not only important mitzvos, but they are necessary and central to our safety and our security. All religious Jews agree with that. There's no debate. There never has been. But throughout Jewish history, and this is clearly reflected in classical Jewish law sources, these spiritual activities have never been separate from every soldier's armor. They have always been part of the armor of a Jewish soldier. And they are today among the religious soldiers in Tzahal in the IDF. It is only recently, in the previous century, that the idea arose that large numbers of religious Jews would study Torah full-time and thereby be exempted from army service. This never existed before in Jewish history. In the time of Rabbi Akiva and the Bar Kokhba rebellion, in the time of Yehuda Maccabee in the Hanukkah story, the army of David HaMelech, the army of Moshe that he sent under the guidance of Yehoshua to fight against Amalek. The Torah itself, when it expresses certain exemptions from serving in certain kinds of war, never mentions such an idea that there would be a group who is going to be exempted because they're studying Torah. Because it's assumed that every Jew, along with fighting, is going to be studying Torah. Now, we've discussed this before, and I have shared with you the sources that indicate this very clearly. And we've also discussed the impact that this debate has on Israeli society. But this debate, this divide, is growing perilously deeper today, and has given rise to a new approach, which is what I want to share with you today. Recently, there was a letter written by a well-known woman in Israel. She's an amazing Torah teacher. Her name is Dr. Tehila Elizur. And this letter has turned into a social media phenomenon. Everyone is talking about this in Israel. Because what Dr. Elizur decided to do is not to address the male leadership of the Chareidi world, which advocates this position of exemption for full-time Torah study young men, certainly not to address the politicians, but rather to address the women in the Chareidi community. She is the mother of sons who are serving in the IDF. And she sent the following message out on WhatsApp, inviting other women who are the mothers of soldiers to join her in signing a letter. And the letter is an appeal to the mothers of Chareidi yeshiva students that the mothers should urge their sons to join the IDF. She writes, "It is an address from the heart, whose purpose is to serve as a clear voice to say things as they are. There is no longer any place in Israeli society for distinguishing between the value of one life and the value in another life." And she writes, "I wish to direct this painful voice to ultra-Orthodox women, to the mothers of those who are taking exemptions, because I feel they are the ones who can lead the change, even if it is slow and gradual, within Chareidi society." And what she asks in this WhatsApp message is, if you are the mother of a soldier and you agree with the letter, which I'm going to share with you in a minute, then please add your signature to the letter, forward this to other mothers of soldiers. And that's her request. Several hundred women have already signed this letter. More are every day. And I want to share with you just a brief excerpt from this letter. An open letter to our Chareidi sisters. These words are written with a trembling hand and a heavy heart. We, mothers and wives of soldiers, in mandatory service and in the reserves, are now turning to you, the mothers of ultra-Orthodox yeshiva students, Chareidi yeshiva students, who receive an exemption from serving in the IDF. And we call on your sons to enlist in the IDF. She writes, "We know that many of you have shared in our grief and bereavement over the fallen for many years, and especially in the difficult days since Simchas Torah, October 7th. In the last 2 months, we have seen the help and solidarity efforts of Chareidi women in a variety of ways to help families of evacuees, families of fallen soldiers. We know that many are praying for the welfare of our soldiers and the healing of the wounded and the return of the kidnapped. And let me just add, it has been incredible. The outpouring of care and help from the Chareidi community to the wider Israeli society since October 7th. It is amazing. She continues, we are also aware that you, like the entirety of Orthodox society, attach great importance to Torah study and see it as a supreme value and assistance in safeguarding the people of Israel. But none of this can come in place of enlisting in the IDF. This is the Jewish, moral, and civil duty of anyone who wishes to live here. The absence of that standard constitutes a distinction between the value of one life and the value of another life. The value of one life, which is being put in danger to protect all of society, and the value of another life, which is safely in a yeshiva, not facing death or danger at every moment. She writes, this reality is no longer tolerable. For those who think that their son is not suitable for military service, we say, many of our children are not suitable to be soldiers. None of them are suited to die in war. None of us are suited to sending our child to risk his or her life. We all do this because it is impossible to live here without an army. And we are all responsible for one another. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh lezeh. It is not possible, it is not tenable for others to risk their lives and to risk the lives of their children for me when I and my children will not risk our lives for them. That implies that some lives are more valuable than others, and that is simply untenable. We call on you to take the lead on these necessary steps, to fulfill together with all of us the commandments. Lo saman al dam reyacha, do not stand by when the blood of your brother is being spilled. And that's exactly what is happening today. There are large groups of Jewish, religious, Israeli men who are standing by while their brother's blood, Nebuch, is being spilled, protecting the Jewish people. And we also have to fulfill the mitzvah, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. We have to treat others the way that we want to be treated. Do you want to be protected by the IDF? Then you have to be willing to be part of that protection. And she says, call on your sons to enlist in the IDF. So Daniel Gordis, who reported this, asks, will it work? And he says it's hard to say, but clearly something is shifting in Israeli society today. And these religious women are taking a breathtaking and courageous step forward. I applaud Dr. Elizur, and I hope for her success because she's right. This reality is no longer tolerable. It is not tolerable in terms of Jewish law, and it is not tolerable in terms of the burden that one group places on another without sharing that burden. It is not tolerable in order for Israeli society to be healed and unified going forward. My friends, I wish you a great day, and I look forward to seeing you soon in person.